John Scott here with Jonathan Acosta. Bills hosting the Saints Sunday at 1 o'clock, a time I think a lot of us are extremely happy for, considering the way the Bills' schedule has been to start the season here. They're 3-0, and let's just start here. A big picture view, because we were able to watch some football over the weekend. It's funny to think they're 3-0, and it seems like they are far and away the best team, certainly within the division, and the odds makers think they're the Super Bowl favorites.
Right. I think it's one of those things where when you have one team that you follow, you get so focused on sort of the nitty-gritty of that team that you sort of lose the big picture view of the rest of the NFL, right? Like the Packers were these world beaters, and they go and lose to the Cleveland Browns 13-10 and
Shocking
not a great
fashion.
offensive performance, and lose a type of game where if the Bills lost a game in that fashion, this place would feel like it was on fire, right? So a little bit of perspective, I think, is valuable, and you get that sometimes when the Bills play on a Thursday night or when they play on a Monday night, as they will in a couple of weeks, where you just get to sit and watch some of the other Sunday games. And you see, again, like other teams struggle. Like the Eagles, they're winning, but you see the struggles that they were having with the LA Rams for a significant portion of their game. So this Bills team, yes, we know that they're not necessarily pushing the ball down the field as much as people want to, or the defense has its noted struggles on third down. But the best part about that for this team is that those are things that they're able to work on while still having that 3-0 record and already a pretty comfortable lead in the AFC.
Yeah, and I throw the Ravens in that boat of, the Ravens look like they should have beaten the Bills week 1, and now they're 1-2.
The Chiefs are 1-2.
Exactly, as well. Bills had a bit of a mini bye because of the Thursday night game. Still coming out of it. No Matt Milano, no Ed Oliver. Spencer Brown also missing practice on Wednesday as he's dealing with a calf injury. It sounds like and appears like it's going to be a slow kind of burn to get either of these guys back.
And I think maybe it's not something that they would come out and say this, but you look at the schedule and you don't feel like there's this rush for them to have to bring these guys back, right? They're playing the New Orleans Saints this weekend on Sunday, and the Bills are over a 2-touchdown favorite against this team, right? So it's not the situation where they're going up and having a huge conference clash against the Chargers and they're coming into town and you're like, all right, we need all the horses on defense to go against this team. We need Ed Oliver, Matt Milano already. No, it feels like this team can still sort of slow play it with them and not feel like they need to rush these guys back. Another part of it, too, is still it's early in the season as opposed to November, December when you're trying to get ramped up for the playoffs. So I think there's always context needed with these injuries, whether it be the part of the body that's injured or when it happens during the season, which player it happens to, a guy like Matt Milano who's dealt with injuries before. So I think those are all factors that play into how the Bills manage the injuries with specific players.
You can never know exactly, even from a medical standpoint, the exact timeline someone's going to return. But I would say the fact that the Bills didn't use injured reserve, that's probably also some strategy with the guys returning and things like that. But that has to give you confidence that they're not going to miss 4 weeks, or else they would have done some roster moves as well. Speaking of guys on IR for 4 weeks, Tyler Bass, Sean McDermott saying he's improving here, not going to go definitive of whether or not he'll be activated and ready to go once he's eligible after this game. A little more context in terms of the pace of which and expectations of which people should have with Max Hairston, who we did see working with the training staff, running, jogging, doing some stuff today.
Yeah, he was, I don't know if it's just the way Sean McDermott talks, but I interpreted it almost as like he's not going to give all this information with injuries, but just like he wanted to lower expectations for Max Hairston, and talking about how he's all the time that he's missed from camp, dating back to camp with this knee injury, and he's a rookie too, so it'd be maybe a different story if he's a veteran that's missed some time but he comes back and he knows the defense. He's a rookie who doesn't really have that knowledge of the defense like a Tre'Davious White or a Christian Benford, so sort of just giving a little bit of added context to that. And I think maybe some of the way that people initially, because he even said when and if he comes back, so you hear that, and he was even asked to clarify that, and he said, well, a guy is never really back until he's back on the field. So I think maybe some people interpret that as like, oh wow, is Max Hairston going to come back this year? I personally didn't interpret it that way. It's just Sean McDermott again trying to maybe help out one of his young players, set the expectations low. But if you ask me, I do expect to see Max Hairston at some point this season. I don't think they would have put him on IR with a designation to return if that's not the way this team felt about it. But the way they're able to slow play it with Matt Milano and Ed Oliver, I think this is a team that's in a position where they're able to slow play it a little bit with Max Hairston. Let him really get caught up to speed, maybe take full advantage of that the 21-day practice
Yes.
window that they get, and not feel like they're in a position that they need him to come in because they say, hey, we're not seeing something great out of our cornerbacks. No, they're just fine with Tre'Davious White and Christian Benford. So there's not that pressure to get them in the fold right away.
And once you activate the 21-day window, you have to make a decision after 21 days. And the decision is not just on what to do with Hairston. It's the corresponding roster move, and that probably means you're putting someone like a Jamarcus Ingram or something on the roster bubble, potentially out the building, and that's someone we know that this organization heavily values. I know we didn't start with the Saints because, as you said, the Bills are over two touchdown favorites against them. They're 0-3. I saw a stat the other day that said they're the only team in all of football through 3 games who has never run an offensive play while having the lead. This is what you're dealing with. I'm not concerned about a potential trap game. There are some talented players, though, on New Orleans' roster.
Right, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Alvin Kamara, great running back, has been doing in this league for a long time. Chris Olave has had the injury history with the concussions, but when he's on the field, he's a very productive wide receiver. And they have some talent, obviously, on the defensive side of the ball. It's a young team, first-year head coach in Kellen Moore. I think a guy that people have seen good things out of, especially in his time as an offensive coordinator, his football knowledge. But obviously, when you have a first-year head coach like him paired with a young quarterback that, let's just be honest, is not considered among the elite or maybe even in the average tier of quarterbacks in Spencer Rattler, it's going to be a team that is still struggling. And it feels like it's a Saints team that's in this rebuilding mode and still 1 or 2 years away from being competitive. So that's the situation that the Bills find themselves in this Sunday, hence the big touchdown spread. But this is a team that's done a good job of, even when they're presented in those sort of situations, maybe they get off to a slow start. I think of maybe the Tennessee game last year when they were a big favorite, and Tennessee, I think, got off to a 10-0 lead in that game before the Bills really revved up the engines in the second half and ended up winning by a big margin. I think maybe that's what you might see play out on Sunday, but I wouldn't expect like the trap game or the letdown game the way we maybe saw with the Packers in Cleveland.
One thing Kellen Moore likes to do, did it with previous stops as an offensive coordinator, and is showing it in the first 3 games as the Saints head coach. Pace. They like to run no huddle. A lot of plays here. That's something the Bills' defense, maybe you're not able to substitute the same way, especially up front, that they traditionally like to do. I'm not saying it's going to be a real challenge, but something different that they're going to have to deal with as well.
The challenge, though, for the Saints is when you play up-tempo like that, you need to get first downs. You need to be able to move the ball down the field, because if you're having these quick 3-and-outs, it's putting your defense right back out there on the field to face a Josh Allen offense, a James Cook offense that we've seen can methodically drive the ball down the field, eat up yards, eat up clock. The risk that Kellen Moore and the Saints run in trying to really run that up-tempo against the Bills is if the Bills' defense is on its game and forcing this 3-and-outs, it could be what could already be a long day for that defense could end up being even that much more difficult.
And some may look at it as a get-right game, even though the Bills are 3-0, scoring 30 points a game and all of that. You mentioned off the top, offensively, some questions, and we've discussed it on Sports Talk Live and even after the last game. The passing game is working, but they're not driving the ball down the field. It's not as maybe flashy as we would or some would like it to be. And Josh Allen addressing that today.
Yeah, he said that, look, he knows that, people want to see fireworks in any sort of sport and everything, but that he's heard sort of the concerns about this team pushing down the field. And he said, look, this team is 3-0. They're winning games. They're having success. They're the 4th highest scoring offense team in the NFL, first in total yards. A lot of things are going right for this offense. It's just that because of the pieces that they have and what we saw out of them last year, the standard is so high for this team. But they're still having a lot of success on offense. They're spreading the ball around to different players. Maybe when they do have to dump it underneath, he talked about it, it's like you can dump it off to a guy like Dalton Kincaid or a Khalil Shakir and let them go make the play, get the yards after the catch, as opposed to having that depth of target or whatever. And also the way they're playing, because of the way defenses are playing them, they're able to run the ball, and that's something this team wants to be able to do anyways. They paid James Cook exactly to do that, and he's been one of the best offensive weapons in the NFL so far this season. So really, the Bills don't have any motivation to change the way that they've been playing so far, even from the concerns from everyone about them not being able to push the ball down the field. Is that something that maybe they try to work on as you get closer to the playoffs, as knowing that that's something that you're going to need against the better teams? Absolutely. But right now, we can have these concerns about the offense while also having that perspective that they're still really, really elite on that side of the ball.
And even in victory, third down defense has been an issue for the Bills. But it's just such a strange conversation because Baltimore is Baltimore. I think they're just different from the other 2 opponents. The Jets had no third down conversions. Meanwhile, Miami was 10 for 15, but still, in totality, Bills ranking lower third in the league in that spot.
And what stuck out to me was Sean McDermott today started talking about where it's not just one thing. It's not just the coverage, or it's not just the pass rush, which we've heard a lot about, where the sack numbers are maybe not where this team wants them to be, especially, you maybe would have wanted to see them get especially to Tua Tagovailoa a lot more than they would have. And Sean McDermott talking about the marriage of the two things. And it's something that we saw play out in a positive aspect on the interception, right, where Deion Walker gets that quick pass rush, and that allows Terrell, clouds the vision a little bit maybe for Tua Tagovailoa. I think on the replay, he even might have gotten a hand on the ball.
It's like the Zapruder film. You can never really tell exactly, but he disrupted the play in one aspect
and
or
then
another.
Terrell Bernard gets in there for basically the game-sealing interception, right? So for all of the bad examples maybe that there are of the Bills not having that marriage in the pass rush and coverage, you see when they are able to pull it together, what that looks like. So I think that's really where it comes down to, where this team is looking to take that next step on third down. Again, not a simple fix. It's having those two things work together. And you mentioned how maybe it is a get-right game against a younger quarterback like Spencer Rattler and everything. Maybe that's something where we see that maybe start to come together this weekend.
The Bills' pressure rate as a whole, one of the best in all of football. But to your point, the sack numbers aren't getting it. They're putting pressure on the quarterback that are just not necessarily taking them down. Vic Carucci and I are going to dive deeper into the matchup against the Saints over on Sports Talk Live Plus on WGRZ Plus tomorrow night, Thursday night at 7:30, and then it'll live on the WGRZ Plus app. You can watch it anytime. Leading into Bills hosting the Saints Sunday at 1 o'clock. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.